OJ the Juiceman is back in the headlines, but this time it is not about music. It is about a Georgia State Patrol case that just turned into a serious legal problem. Reports say OJ, whose real name is Otis Williams Jr., was arrested on March 15th and then booked into the DeKalb County Jail on March 16th after an alleged interstate incident that goes back to January 28th. And this is not a lightweight charge stack either. He is reportedly facing 10 charges total, including felony, aggravated assault upon a public safety officer, misdemeanor pointing or aiming a gun at another person, and felony possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. That alone is enough to get attention. But what makes this story bigger than a basic rapper arrested headline is the twist already coming from the defense side. Because while troopers say OJ was the one in that car during the alleged highway confrontation, a sworn affidavit from a woman connected to the rental vehicle claims he was not even behind the wheel. So right from the jump, this case has two competing versions. The state says it was OJ, but the early defense angle is already trying to tear that story apart. According to TMZ's report on the legal documents, the whole thing started on I-20 East in Atlanta, when a state trooper says he was merging into the HOV lane and OJ started tailgating and honking at him. Then, according to that same account, OJ passed the trooper, pointed what was described as a black handgun, and sped off while driving recklessly through traffic. TMZ says the trooper then alleged he caught up to the car again, and OJ allegedly pointed the weapon a second time before driving away recklessly once more. And that is why this story escalated so fast. If this was just a speeding accusation or even a reckless driving stop, it would still be a story, but not like this. The moment a trooper says a driver pointed a firearm during an interstate encounter, the whole case changes. Now it becomes a serious felony situation with law enforcement stakes attached to it. That is also why this thing did not end as a warning, a ticket, or some quiet court date nobody noticed. It turned into an arrest, a mugshot, and a headline that moved across TMZ, WSB, and XXL in the same news cycle. The other reason this story has real weight is the charge stack itself. XXL reports OJ was hit with 10 counts altogether, with 8 misdemeanors and 2 felonies. The 2 felony counts XXL highlighted are possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony and aggravated assault upon a public safety officer. XXL also reported that the misdemeanor side includes counts like aggressive driving, reckless driving, and pointing or aiming a gun or pistol at another. On top of that, the screenshots tied to the case show a pile of traffic-related accusations, including following too closely, lane-related violations, and other driving counts. So this is the part people need to understand. This is not one dramatic accusation sitting by itself. It is a full stack. And when a case comes with that many counts, it gives the public the impression that investigators believe they had enough to build a bigger picture, not just one isolated claim. That does not mean guilt is proven. It does mean this case was strong enough, in the state's view, to move forward with a wide list of charges instead of just hanging everything on one single accusation. That is what makes this harder to brush off as a random misunderstanding on the road. Now here is where the story really gets interesting. WSB and TMZ both say there is a sworn affidavit from a woman who claims OJ was not driving the car involved in the alleged incident. The reporting says OJ rented the vehicle on her behalf, but that he did not have possession of it on January 28th to her knowledge. She says another man had permission to use that rental car. TMZ also reported the vehicle investigators tied to the case was a Nissan Altima. That changes the energy of the story immediately, because now the biggest question is not just what happened on I-20. The biggest question becomes who was actually driving when it happened. If the trooper's identification is rock solid, then the state will feel good about where this case is going. But if the defense can create real doubt around who had control of that car that day, then this story stops being a straightforward highway confrontation case and turns into a fight over identification, possession, and proof. That is the kind of twist that can drag a case out and keep it in the news a lot longer than people expect. As of WSB's report, OJ remains in the DeKalb County Jail, and his legal team is already pushing hard on the bond issue. WSB says his attorneys argue he is not a flight risk because of his ties to the community and because he has been complying with conditions in a separate case in Coweta County. WSB also published a statement from attorney Terrell Dark saying they are confident in OJ's innocence, that they will pursue all appropriate remedies to secure his release, and that they expect him to be fully vindicated once the evidence is properly considered. That statement matters for two reasons. First, it tells you the defense is not easing into this thing quietly. They are coming out aggressive and signaling that they plan to challenge the state's version head-on. Second, it tells you this story is probably not finished. WSB also reported that it requested the incident reports from Georgia State Patrol, and that is the missing piece right now. Because once fuller reports, any possible footage, or more detailed court filings come out, people will finally start to see whether this case leans more toward a strong trooper identification or a real defense argument that the wrong man got tied to the wrong vehicle. The reason this story works so well as a headline is because it has all the ingredients your audience locks on too fast. You have a known Atlanta rap figure. You have a state trooper allegation on the interstate. You have felony counts, a mugshot, and real paperwork. But then right in the middle of all that, you have the one detail that makes people stop and argue, what if OJ was not even driving? That is the part that gives this story legs. Without that affidavit, this would mostly be a serious arrest recap. With that affidavit, it becomes a mystery. And that is where I think the real next chapter is going to come from. Not from people just reposting the mugshot. Not from repeating the charge count. The real next chapter is going to come from evidence. Can the state clearly place OJ in that driver's seat? Did investigators build that case off the trooper's identification alone, off vehicle records, or off something else we have not seen yet? And how hard can the defense push this rented car angle before the state answers back? Right now, this story feels like it is only halfway told. So if more paperwork drops, if a bond ruling comes down, or if incident details surface, this one could get a lot more serious fast. If you want the next chapter when it drops, subscribe.